The laugh came first, then the silence, and in that silence, my entire childhood came rushing back. My name is Lena Morrison. I'm 31 years old, and I work as a commercial interior designer in Asheville, North Carolina. And on Christmas Eve, in a house glowing with twinkle lights and fake harmony, my mother humiliated me, again. I didn't react right away. That's important, because when you've spent your whole life being underestimated, you learn the power of stillness. The dining room smelled like cinnamon, roasted turkey, and pine from the over-decorated tree in the corner. Every surface screamed family tradition. Red placemats, gold napkin rings, stockings embroidered with names that hadn't changed in decades, including mine. Same font, same size, same expectations. I set my fork down slowly, too slowly, the kind of movement people notice without knowing why. Conversation kept going for half a beat longer. My stepdad chuckled at his own joke. My aunt adjusted her sweater. My cousin Noah refilled his wine. Then my mom, Carolyn, leaned back in her chair and smiled the way she always did when she felt powerful. "Well," she said loudly, eyes sparkling, "Lena's 31 and still renting that tiny little shoebox downtown." Laughter bubbled around the table. Soft, polite, safe. My chest tightened, not because it hurt, but because I knew what was coming next. "She's so creative," my mom continued, drawing the word out like it excused everything. "Just not very practical. Some people plan for the future. Others float." She gestured vaguely. Toward me. Toward my life. I looked at my hands. Calm. Steady. Nails done. No shaking. Good. Across from me, my younger sister Holly, 26, recently married, freshly approved for a mortgage, avoided my eyes. She hated moments like this, but she never stopped them. Nobody did. And here's the part that still makes my stomach flip. We were sitting in this house. The one with the vaulted ceilings. The one with the heated floors my mom bragged about to everyone who walked in. The one she called her greatest achievement. Christmas Eve music hummed softly from a speaker in the corner. Bing Crosby crooning about peace on earth while my mother sharpened the knife. "Honestly," she laughed, lifting her glass, "I don't know how she'll ever afford a place like this." I swallowed. "Hold on, before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? Are you cooking? Driving? Hiding in a room away from your own family chaos? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Because if you've ever been that person at the table, the one everyone talks about instead of to, you'll understand why I didn't defend myself. I didn't need to. What they didn't know, what she didn't know, was that every mortgage payment on this house for the last 18 months had come from my bank account. Not hers. Mine. But we're not there yet. See, this wasn't just about Christmas Eve. This was about a lifetime of being the punchline, the dreamer, the late bloomer, the daughter who didn't marry rich or pick a safe job or ask for help. My mom loved control, loved hierarchy, loved reminding everyone who was winning. And in her version of the story, I was losing. I looked up and met her eyes. She smirked. That familiar glint. The one that said, "I still own you." I smiled back. And that's when she frowned. Because something shifted. Subtle. Dangerous. She didn't know it yet, but this was the last Christmas Eve she'd ever laugh at me in her own house. The tree lights flickered. Someone clinked a glass. And I finally spoke. Not the truth. Not yet. Just enough to let the tension breathe. "Yeah," I said softly. "It's wild where life takes you." The room leaned in, and my mom smiled, thinking she'd won. She had no idea what I was about to unwrap. The most dangerous secret in that room wasn't what I knew, it was what I was finally ready to say. After my quiet comment, the table relaxed again. That's how it always worked. I'd learned early that silence made people underestimate you. They assume quiet means weak. They assume compliance. They assume you'll stay in your place. My mom took another sip of wine, satisfied. She thought she'd put me back where I belonged. I let her think that. Christmas Eve dinner rolled on like a play I'd already memorized. The same jokes. The same forced gratitude. The same stories retold as if they were brand new. Every laugh landed like a reminder of how small I was supposed to feel. But inside me, something was clicking into alignment. You see, this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment humiliation. This was a pattern. Growing up, I was always too much or not enough. Too emotional, not practical. Too artistic, not serious. When I chose interior design instead of accounting like my mom wanted, she told people I was experimenting. At 24, when I moved out with 2 suitcases and a sketchbook, she told everyone I was finding myself. At 28, when my business finally started making real money, she didn't ask how. She didn't congratulate me. She just said, "Don't forget taxes." And when she and my stepdad almost lost this house 2 years ago, she didn't tell anyone, not even me. I found out by accident. I'd come over to drop off a gift, and I heard them whispering in the kitchen. Words like late notice, final warning, and temporary. Temporary. That word stuck. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Christmases in that house. About how much my mom loved the image of stability. About how losing this place would destroy the story she told herself and everyone else. So I did something impulsive and terrifying and life-altering. I called my bank. Fast forward back to Christmas Eve. Dessert was served, peppermint cheesecake, my aunt's specialty. Plates clinked. Chairs shifted. The energy softened. People always think the danger is over once dessert arrives. It never is. "So, Lena," my stepdad said casually, wiping his mouth, "still working on kitchens?" The way he said it. Like a hobby. Like finger painting. I smiled politely. Commercial spaces. Mostly. Hospitality. Residential consulting. Blank stare. My mom jumped in. "She means she helps pick throw pillows." Laughter again. This time I felt it differently. Not like a punch. More like a countdown. Because while they were laughing, my phone buzzed in my pocket. One notification. Then another. I didn't check them. I already knew what they were. Across the table, Holly finally looked at me. Her eyes searched my face, like she sensed something coming, like animals do before storms. "Lena's actually doing really well," she said quietly. The table went still. My mom's smile tightened. "Oh honey," she said sweetly, "we all do fine when we're young. The real test is adulthood." Adulthood. I nodded slowly. "You're right." Her eyebrows lifted. Surprised. She'd expected a defense. Or tears. Or anger. Not agreement. I pushed my chair back slightly. Just enough to shift the energy. "Actually," I added, "this year has been educational." People leaned in again. "Really?" my mom asked, suspicious now. I met her gaze. Held it. Didn't blink. "Yeah," I said. "I learned a lot about responsibility. About stepping in when things are at risk." My stepdad frowned. "What do you mean?" I reached for my wine. Took a sip. Let the silence stretch. "See, revenge isn't loud. It's patient. I learned, I continued, that sometimes the people who look the most put together are barely holding it together. My mom's hand froze mid-gesture. And that sometimes, I said gently, the people you underestimate are the ones keeping the lights on. The air shifted. For real this time. My mom laughed too quickly. What are you talking about? I smiled. Nothing, I said. Not yet. But my phone buzzed again. Longer this time. I glanced down. A single word from my bank manager lit up the screen. Confirmed. I looked back up at the table, at the tree, at my mother's face, and for the first time in my life, I realized something powerful. She wasn't in control anymore. She just didn't know it yet. The truth was sitting in my purse, printed, signed, and waiting for the right moment to breathe. Dinner plates were cleared, and the living room became the stage. That's how Christmas Eve always worked in my family. Food softened people. Sugar made them careless. And careless people never see what's coming. My mom stood and clapped her hands. All right. Gifts before midnight mass. She loved this part. Loved being the conductor. Loved watching reactions. Validation wrapped in ribbon. Everyone gathered around the tree. The lights blinked, white, then gold, then white again. The same cheap angel leaned crooked on top. I'd offered to fix it once. My mom said it was fine the way it was. That phrase echoed in my head. Fine the way it was. I sat on the edge of the couch, purse resting against my ankle. Inside it was a thin manila envelope. No bow. No tag. No festive nonsense. Just paper. Legal paper. My sister Holly passed out gifts. Wrapping tore. Laughter rose. Someone gasped dramatically over a sweater. My stepdad pretended to love a gadget he didn't understand. Then my mom handed me a small box. From us, she said brightly. Thought you could use something practical. The word landed heavy. I opened it slowly. A planner. Not even a nice one. Beige. Generic. The kind you buy in bulk near the checkout line. She smiled. To help you get organized this year. The room chuckled softly. I closed the planner and placed it beside me. Thank you. No sarcasm. No bite. That made her uncomfortable. Because people like my mom feed on reaction. And I wasn't feeding her anymore. Lena, she said suddenly, tilting her head, did you bring gifts? Or are you still doing that minimalist thing? I felt eyes turn to me. I stood. Actually, I said, I did bring something. Her lips pressed together. Well, don't keep us waiting. I reached down and lifted my purse onto the coffee table. The zipper sounded loud in the quiet room. I pulled out the envelope. No one spoke. This isn't for everyone, I said calmly. Just you. And Mark. My stepdad straightened. What is it? I handed the envelope to my mom. She took it, confused. She laughed once, nervously. What's this? A card. Open it, I said. The paper crinkled as she slid out the contents. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the second. Her smile faded. What is this? She asked, voice sharp now. It's the mortgage statement, I said evenly. And the payment history. The room went still. Mark leaned over her shoulder. His face drained of color. That's not, my mom started. It is, I said. Check the name. She looked down again. Mine. Printed cleanly at the top. Her laugh came out wrong. Too loud. Too fast. This is some kind of mistake. No, I said softly. It isn't. My heart was pounding, but my voice didn't waver. That surprised me most. You were 3 months behind, I continued. The bank was preparing to start foreclosure. You didn't tell anyone. Holly's hand flew to her mouth. You went into my office that day, I added, eyes never leaving my mom's face. You said you were just stopping by. But you were panicking. I heard it in your voice. My mom stood up abruptly. This is inappropriate. Inappropriate. I echoed. You laughed at me. In this house. On Christmas Eve. Mark sat down heavily. Lena, how long? 18 months, I said. The words dropped like ornaments shattering on the floor. I refinanced under my name. Lower interest rate. Automatic payments. No missed months. My mom stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. You couldn't even qualify without a co-signer, I added. Your credit was already damaged. Silence pressed in from all sides. You let me believe I was a failure, I said quietly, while I was quietly making sure you didn't lose everything. Her face twisted. Anger. Fear. Something else. You went behind our backs, she snapped. I nodded. Just like you talked behind mine. The room felt smaller. Tighter. Mark rubbed his face. Carolyn, is this true? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I picked up my purse. I didn't do this for praise, I said. I did it because I didn't want Holly's kids growing up without this place. My mom's voice shook. Then why tell us now? I met her eyes. Because I'm done being your punchline. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight. And that's when she said something that changed everything. Something that made me realize the truth had only just begun to hurt. Her next words weren't anger. They were worse. Entitlement. My mom exhaled sharply, then squared her shoulders like she was reclaiming authority. Well, she said, voice thin but steady, I suppose that explains why things worked out. Worked out. Not thank you. Not I'm sorry. Worked out. I felt something cold settle in my chest. So, she continued, handing the papers back to me like they were a receipt, you'll just keep handling it then, since you've already started. The room collectively inhaled. Mark looked at her. Carolyn. She waved him off. It's family. That's what family does. There it was. The justification. The expectation. The leash she'd always tried to keep around my neck. I nodded slowly. No. One word. Clean. Final. Her eyes widened. Excuse me. I said no, I repeated. I covered the mortgage to prevent foreclosure. That was temporary. Her jaw tightened. You can't just stop. The payments are due next month, I finished. And they'll need to come from you. The color drained from her face. You'd let us lose the house? She asked, incredulous. I tilted my head. You mean the house you told everyone you earned by being responsible adults? Holly stood up. Mom, you should apologize. My mom spun toward her. Stay out of this. No, Holly said, voice shaking. You've been cruel to her for years. That stunned her. Me too. Christmas Eve was unraveling, thread by thread. You embarrassed me, my mom hissed at me. I laughed once. Short. Sharp. You embarrassed yourself. The words tasted like freedom. Mark cleared his throat. Lena, if there's any way we can talk about a plan. There is, I said. I already made one. I reached back into my purse. Another envelope. Thicker this time. This is a repayment agreement, I explained. Every dollar I paid. With interest. Spread over 15 years. Manageable. If you cut some luxuries. My mom scoffed. You expect us to pay you back? I met her gaze. You taught me responsibility. Silence again. Heavy. Pressurized. And if you don't sign, I added calmly, the bank will be notified of the change in payment source. They'll reassess risk. Quickly. Mark's face went pale. Carolyn, we don't have a choice. She stared at the papers like they were poison. This is revenge, she said finally. I shook my head. No. This is boundaries. The clock chimed midnight. Christmas Day. My mom sank back onto the couch, suddenly smaller. Older. You always were dramatic, she muttered. I leaned forward. And you always confused obedience with love. That landed. Hard. Holly moved to my side, slipped her hand into mine. I'm proud of you, she whispered. My throat tightened, because this moment was something I'd never expected. My mom picked up a pen. Her hand trembled as she signed. Each stroke looked like it hurt. When she finished, she pushed the papers toward me. There. Happy. I took them, slid them back into my purse. No, I said, relieved. I stood. The room felt different now. Lighter. Like something toxic had finally been named. I'm heading out, I added. I've got an early morning. My mom looked up sharply. You're leaving? On Christmas. I smiled gently. I have my own place to go to. She flinched. As I reached the door, she spoke again. Softer this time. Lena, you didn't have to do this. I paused. Hand on the knob. You're right, I said without turning around. I didn't. And that's when I realized something important. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a reckoning she'd been avoiding her whole life. Because consequences don't end when the papers are signed. They just get quieter and more permanent. As I stepped out into the cold night, snow drifting under the streetlight, my phone buzzed again. A message from my bank manager. One last thing we should discuss. I smiled. Because the real twist? My mom still didn't know everything. The final leverage wasn't emotional. It was legal. Cold air bit my cheeks as I walked to my car. Snow crunched under my boots, sharp and clean, like punctuation at the end of a sentence. Christmas morning had technically arrived, but the neighborhood was quiet. No kids yet, no chaos. Just stillness. I sat behind the wheel and finally checked my phone. Bank manager, Evan. We need to talk about ownership exposure. Call me when you can. Ownership exposure. I exhaled slowly. See, when I stepped in to save the house, I didn't just throw money at a problem. I asked questions. A lot of them. Because when you grow up being underestimated, you learn to protect yourself quietly. Evan had warned me back then. If you carry all the financial risk, he'd said, you should carry some control. At the time, I wasn't ready. Now, I was. I drove home through empty streets, Christmas lights blinking in windows like secrets. My apartment, yes, the Shoebox, welcomed me with warmth and silence. No judgment. No hierarchy. I made tea, sat at my kitchen table, and called Evan. You did the right thing tonight, he said after I explained. But there's something you should know. I closed my eyes. Go on. Because the mortgage is solely under your name now, and because the original owners defaulted, you're legally the primary stakeholder. The word landed slowly. Stakeholder. So, I said carefully, what does that mean? It means, he replied, you can request a title adjustment. My pulse quickened. Meaning your name can be added or replaced. I stared at the steam rising from my mug. Replaced. I'm not saying you should. Evan added. But you have options. And given the emotional volatility you described. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching snow fall past my window, thinking about my mom's face when she signed that agreement, about how quickly gratitude had turned into accusation, and I understood something painful. She didn't see my help as sacrifice. She saw it as obligation. By noon, my phone was blowing up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. Mom, we need to talk. Mom, this is not how family handles things. Mom, you're being cruel. Cruel. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to the bank. The office was quiet. Holiday skeleton crew. Evan met me with a knowing look and slid a folder across the desk. Read everything, he said. I did. Line by line. Clause by clause. And when I looked up, my hands were steady. I want to initiate the process, I said. He nodded. I'll start the paperwork. Driving back, I felt calm, not vindictive, not angry, resolved. That afternoon, Holly came over. She'd never been to my apartment before. This is really nice, she said, looking around. I smiled. It's enough. She hesitated. Mom's spiraling. I shrugged gently. That's not mine to manage. Holly sat beside me. She said you're threatening her security. I laughed softly. No. I'm redefining mine. She nodded slowly. I wish I'd said something sooner. You're saying it now, I replied. That counts. As evening fell, my mom finally showed up unannounced. I opened the door and she stood there, coat too thin, eyes sharp with panic. You can't do this, she said immediately. I stepped aside. Come in. She didn't sit. She paced. You've always been dramatic, she snapped. This is a phase. I met her gaze. This is adulthood. She scoffed. You think money gives you power over me? I shook my head. No. Your choices did. She stopped pacing. What do you want? I considered her. Really looked at her. I want respect, I said. And accountability. She laughed bitterly. You'll regret this. I smiled sadly. I already regret waiting so long. Her phone buzzed. She checked it. Her face changed. What is this? She demanded, shoving the screen toward me. A notification from the bank. Title review initiated. Her hands shook. You wouldn't, she whispered. I held her gaze. I already did. And in that moment, something shattered between us. Not loudly, but completely. When power shifts, the truth doesn't whisper, it scrapes its way out. My mom didn't yell. She didn't cry. That scared me more. She stared at the notification on her phone like it was written in a foreign language. Then she looked at me, not with anger, but with calculation. You planned this, she said slowly. I leaned against the counter. I prepared for it. She scoffed. Same thing. No, I corrected. Planning hurts people. Preparing protects them. She shook her head, pacing again. You think you're some kind of hero now? I watched her move through my apartment, not judging it anymore, measuring it. I never wanted to be a hero, I said. I wanted to stop being your shield. That landed harder than I expected. She stopped pacing. You owe me, she said quietly. There it was. The core belief. The thing she'd never say out loud, until now. I raised you, she continued. I sacrificed for you. I nodded. You did. And I was a child. Her lips pressed together. And now you're punishing me. No, I said firmly. I'm refusing to keep paying for behavior that hurts me. She laughed, but it cracked. You always were sensitive. I stepped closer. And you always dismissed pain that wasn't yours. Silence stretched between us. Outside, someone laughed. Somewhere down the block, Christmas music drifted faintly through the cold air. The world kept celebrating while something ancient and brittle broke inside this room. You know, she said suddenly, your grandmother would be ashamed. I felt it, that old instinct to shrink. But it didn't take. Grandma taught me how to balance a checkbook, I replied. She also taught me that love doesn't come with strings. My mom's eyes flashed. This is about control. I nodded. Yes, mine. She stepped back, stunned. You don't get to rewrite history, she snapped. I'm not, I said. I'm finally reading it clearly. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. She checked it. Her face drained. What now? She whispered. I already knew. Evan had warned me this might happen. Because the mortgage has been under my name for so long, I explained gently, the bank is reassessing ownership rights and liability. She looked up, panic creeping in. What does that mean? It means, I said, choosing my words carefully, they're looking at who actually owns the house. Her breath hitched. You wouldn't take it from us. I searched her face. The fear. The disbelief. I haven't decided anything yet, I said honestly. But I won't be manipulated anymore. She sank onto the couch, suddenly tired. Smaller than I'd ever seen her. You're destroying this family, she murmured. I shook my head. No. I stopped pretending. She looked up at me. If you do this, you'll lose us. I felt a pang. Not guilt. Grief. You already lost me, I said softly. You just didn't notice. She stood abruptly. I won't sign anything else. That's your choice, I replied. Just like it was your choice to laugh at me. She grabbed her coat. You think you're better than us now. I smiled sadly. I think I'm equal. She paused at the door. You'll regret humiliating me. I met her eyes. You humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering it. The door closed behind her with a final click. I sank into a chair, heart racing. Holly called minutes later. She's furious. I know, I said. She says you're trying to steal her life. I stared at the wall. I'm trying to build mine. There was a pause. Whatever happens, Holly said, I'm on your side. That meant more than she knew. That night, I barely slept. My phone buzzed constantly. Extended family. Friends of my mom. People who'd never asked how I was. Now full of opinions. By morning, one message stood out. From Evan. We uncovered something during the title review. You need to come in. Today. My stomach dropped. What kind of something? I typed. 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Then. Something your mother never told you. I stared at the screen. Because just when I thought I understood the whole story, I realized there was one more secret buried in that house. And it might change everything. The last secret wasn't about money. It was about truth. The bank office felt colder than usual. Not temperature-wise, emotionally. Evan didn't offer coffee this time. He didn't smile either. He slid one final folder across the desk. This came up during the title audit, he said. It explains a lot. My hands hesitated before opening it. Somewhere deep down, I already knew whatever was inside would rewrite my understanding of everything. Inside were documents dated over 30 years back. Before my stepdad. Before this house. Before me. My breath caught. Your mother didn't buy her first home alone, Evan continued carefully. It was purchased with funds from a trust. A trust. I echoed. He nodded. Set up by your grandmother. For you. The room tilted. For me. Evan tapped a page. Your grandmother sold her own property shortly before she passed. She created a protected account intended for your future housing or education. Your mother was named temporary administrator. Temporary. My chest tightened. She was supposed to transfer control to you when you turned 25, Evan said quietly. She never did. I stared at the papers, the numbers, the signatures. She used the trust as a down payment on this house, he added, and later leveraged it to refinance. My ears rang. So, this house, I whispered, was always partially yours, Evan finished. I laughed once, not from humor, from shock. All those years, all those comments, all that ridicule. She hadn't just underestimated me. She'd been afraid of me. I drove straight to the house. Christmas decorations still clung to the porch. The angel on the tree inside leaned crooked as ever. Nothing looked different. Everything was. My mom opened the door, eyes red-rimmed. You came back to gloat? I stepped inside. We need to talk. She folded her arms. I have nothing to say. I pulled the folder from my bag and placed it on the table. Her face drained as she recognized the documents. You knew, I said calmly. Didn't you? She swallowed. It was complicated. It was theft, I replied. Her voice cracked. I did what I had to do. For who? I asked. Me? Or your image? She sank into a chair. You were young. I needed stability. And I needed honesty. Silence. I'm not taking the house, I said finally. Her head snapped up. You're not. No, I continued. But I am reclaiming what was meant for me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Real ones this time. The bank will restructure ownership, I explained. You and Mark can stay as tenants. Fair rent. Clear boundaries. She looked at me, broken. You'd really do that? I nodded. Because I'm not you. She covered her face. I loved you, she whispered. I know, I said gently. But love without respect is just control. I stood. This is the last financial conversation we'll ever have, I added. From now on, if you want a relationship with me, it starts with accountability. She nodded slowly. When I left, the house didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It felt like closure. Weeks later, I stood in my apartment, my real one. Sunlight through the windows. Peace in the air. Holly came by often. We laughed more. Talked honestly. My mom. She was quieter now. Careful. Learning. As for me, I wasn't the girl renting a shoebox anymore. I was a woman who owned her story. And finally, her future. If this story hit home for you, if you've ever been underestimated, manipulated, or made to feel small by the people who were supposed to protect you, you're not alone. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Silent Revenge Lab for more stories where quiet strength wins in the end. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is simply reclaiming what was always yours.